Welcome to the Business and Interiors podcast, the place where the world of interior design meets the essence of business success. I'm your host, David Del Greco, alongside my co-host, Cinzia Moretti of the award-winning Moretti Interior Design Studio. Our mission is to help interior designers run, streamline, and grow their business with confidence. In this podcast, we dive into the professional journeys and personal stories of some of the most inspiring interior designers and creative entrepreneurs. Each episode offers a glimpse into the strategies and experiences that have helped shape their business in this ever-evolving industry. So tune in, get inspired, and join us as we uncover the stories behind the design. Today we are joined by Grant Pierrus. Grant is the founder of Pierrus Agency and the creative mind behind the celebrated blog Interior Style Hunter. Grant is a luxury interior design marketing expert. Thanks to his strategic approach, creative flair, and deep understanding of the design industry, he crafts innovative solutions that drive brands forward. Grant, welcome to the podcast.
Amazing. Thank you, David and Cinzia.
Welcome.
It's wonderful to be here. And like I said to you earlier, so lovely to be in a room with two people that I've known for so long. So
That's
I'm
true.
really excited about this conversation.
Lovely. Well, it's lovely to have you here. And actually, I remember when you first launched your blog, so many years ago now, and so many things have changed and evolved, and would you like to share your journey?
Yeah, my journey. Wow, it's great. I just, I think something I realized, I turned 40 a year and a half ago.
Welcome to the club.
Working that out.
You're still young.
And it was something that I got to a point, I was always chasing. And actually, I sort of changed my frame of reference. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to start looking at life as actually what experiences do I want to have? Mm-hmm. What are those experiences that I want to go through? And that's how I'm going to structure my life. Mm-hmm. And I looked back at my journey from being, in South Africa, renovating properties, doing all sorts of things in Cape Town and, getting into marketing, starting a sustainable business in Cape Town back in the day. And then, kind of just hitting a ceiling in Cape Town. I was in all the newspapers. I was in all the magazines.
Amazing.
I was just like, well, where do I go from here? And I thought, my grandparents are from London. Let's head to London. So off I come to London and landed up in 2009. I arrived here in the middle of the recession, of course, Good choice, Grant. But anyway, I'm a fighter, so I just go out and do my thing. I landed up in the city working for a finance company.
Okay.
And heading up their marketing. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting because our clients were architects like Anish Kapoor, Zaha Hadid, White Cube, Sansuki, all these really interesting brands and galleries and architects and things. And I've always had an interest in that anyway. So I worked there for a couple of years and I sort of realized, actually, I need to do something. I need something more creative in my life. I need more freedom for myself. I don't want to be attached to a machine. Mm-hmm. And so I went off to Central St. Martin's and I studied interior design. And at that time, that's when I launched Interior Style Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I chose the name because I didn't want it to be my own name because I was still testing. I don't know what I want to be. I don't know what this is. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that, so Interior Style Hunter. That came back to bite me because the thing blew up massively and everybody just was like, who's Interior Style Hunter? Who is this? Mm-hmm. What is that? I'd meet people and I'd be like, my name's Grant Pierrus. And they'd be like, have you seen Interior Style Hunter anywhere? I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, what's really? There's this whole thing going on. And, I landed up in Design Shanghai and, Design Dubai Design Week and Dubai Art Week. And then Maison called me up and said...
I remember the talk, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With Justina and with Nicolas Topiol from Christian Lacroix, can I come and do a talk at Maison Objet? I mean, I'd never been to Maison. It was so early on while I was blogging, but the blog was just gaining so much traction. Mm-hmm. I remember going to that talk that morning, and I called a friend of mine, Antonetto, who now lives in New York, and I said to her, "You have to come to Paris with me. Like, I'm so nervous, you know." I couldn't speak on my way to the show in the morning. Like, I just couldn't. And she was like, "You have to speak. Like, you're going to be on stage. Start talking, you know." Anyway, I got on stage, and when I got on stage,
you were great, by the way. I mean,
well, this is it. When I got on stage, it was like, who is this person that just pops out when he's on stage? Like, who is this character, you know? And I was like, I just loved it. And then I realized I could use the blog and myself together to create that positioning in the market, which is then what I went on to do. And I was at a party one night with First Dibs, which a friend of mine now and client, Rachel Laxer.
Okay.
It was at her house, actually. First Dibs were launching in the UK, and they partnered with Rachel to have this big party. It was a massive party. I met her. She said to me, "Come back in the week and see me." So I did. And I remember I even took half a day off at work and kind of went off to see Rachel and sat there. And she said, "Whatever you're doing for yourself," she's like, "I don't know what it is. I don't understand what it is. But the visibility you're creating, do that for me." And I thought, there it is. Design, marketing, like my skills from the city, my passion for design, and this like showmanship, I can wrap that up in a business. And that's how Pierrus Agency was born.
Amazing.
And so we've grown, you know, over time. We've now got 6 team members. We've got 2 specialists that work with us. We've got 16 clients, more and more coming on board, you know, and we're just, the growth that I've seen in the last couple of years is incredible. And this year we've just launched a new website. And on that, we're particularly looking at, you know, we as an agency work with most of the bigger firms, really, you know, bigger firms or more established firms. You know, we really think our clients need to be sort of, you know, around for at least 10 years, have some really meaty projects that they're working on, really know their stuff for us to be able to help them, and or be the very large firms. But that excludes a huge market, you know. And so something we've just launched is marketing consulting, an hourly thing, where you can speak to someone on my team who are actually more expert at what they do than I am. You know, my job is to lead and make noise about things, but they, you know, it gives my team an incredible way to grow, and it gives it access to people who can't take us on for a whole thing to just get us for an hour or so.
So for new interior designers, they're new into this market, they don't know how it works, and they're overwhelmed with the things to do, that we help them.
That's exactly
so
who
they
it's
can get in
for.
touch with you and
That's exactly
your
who
team.
it's for. And it's for firms that have started within the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, so that there's no conflict with our current client base. Made it very clear.
Yeah.
And there's a place where you can go and speak to a very experienced person. You know, my team have been with me for so long. They are deep in this, they understand it, and you can get very specific questions. So we've made that available to people just this week, which is amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well done. Congrats.
Thanks.
But that also shows that even if you do attend an interior design school, you don't have to be an interior designer. You create yourself a huge career, not to be an interior design, but still be in the interior design field.
Absolutely.
And that helps a lot of people say, I really like design. My skills are not there yet.
What else can I do?
What else can I do?
As an example, one of my clients, I won't mention her, but you know, she runs a project management company. She's an interior designer, you know, and actually she loves that bit of the process. So she's built a whole business
Just on that.
around partnering with designers and construction companies, offering project management services, which, as we know, is the biggest headache for design agency. I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Interesting choice, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, she's really good at it. So she's still involved in design, but there's so many services around design, you know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go into interior design because they want to be a famous creative interior designer. But what I've always tried to do is make sure that people understand I have an opinion about design. I have very strong opinions about design. I critique design a lot. I'm looking at my clients' mood boards and saying, rethink this, look at that. I'm checking space plans and being like, why don't we look at it this way? Why don't we look at it that way? And the knowledge that I can bring to clients is enormous because I'm looking at 16 clients. Deeply in their businesses, know. And of course, people say to us, oh, but what about conflict of interest? La, la, la. We get that a lot. And it's like, well, if you trust me, you know that I'm going to bring you the collective value of what I know and make sure that your business performs its best.
But also, every single company you work for might have different
approach.
They're so different, and this is what people often don't really realize. I mean, in the room, David and I, we have the same business. Do we ever clash? Of course not. Because our approach is different, and someone will work with David but not me, and vice versa, and that's absolutely okay because there's room in the market for it. And actually you support each other. I remember years ago with the blog, like with Martin White and Kate and all these people, everyone thought we were the biggest competitors ever. Actually, we were all behind the scenes. Everyone could think that, whatever they like, but behind the scenes, we all knew exactly what was going on with each other, who was working with which client, what they were paying everybody, what they weren't, what the deal was. Like, it was so transparent, and I think this is what a lot of people don't think. You can work collaboratively in the market.
Because people think that they are there's sort of competition. There's no competition. Everyone is specialized on a different thing. And if you feel that, it's because you're not sure about your own business. And that means you need to dig a little bit more, find out why you're so scared of having competitors.
I mean, there is a competitive element when you're pitching for a job. Fair enough.
Of course. But that's part in every job.
Exactly. And I think, if you go and play your best game and you win, congratulations. If you don't, that's also okay. That's also okay. You can congratulate your teammates and be like, great job. You got a great client there.
There are also a lot of people, lots of designers, they're friends. I actually, if I have I had a little, issues that comes along with the business, or I didn't know where to find something. I'm not going to say the names, but I say, I text my, another fellow, say, what did you do in this case? Or where did you find this? And we all know each other and willing to help each other. Because a lot of people think there's an isolated job. That, I'm not going to share that with the other designer because you never know. Share it because you never know actually what kind of help you're going to get.
It's interesting, David, just to finish up your question and sort of connect it back to how I started with experiences. And, I've looked at my business and I've thought, okay, this year I want to grow. I want to grow the business. I want to experience growing business. And I want to experience being able to step sideways, bring in a team that are amazing, and my team are, and let them grow up.
Right.
But I need to step out the way for that to happen. That's a big thing to even just your mindset, get that right. And what I've had to do actually is really think about how am I redefining myself post being in and knee deep in Pierrus Agency all day long for the last 10 years. How do I do that? And I've sort of rekindled my love of design and writing about design. And, I can't not write about design or talk about it or showcase it. I have to. And so what you'll see that, coming out for the rest of this year is like almost a Grant Pierrus brand, that is talking about design that I love, talking about beautiful things, talking about what I think about interior design.
So it's going to be another blog?
It's another blog, but it's not in the same vein as Interior Style Hunter. I think that was of its time. This is very oriented towards my own thinking, my own thoughts, not about this brand, that brand, this brand, that. That was a very different time. Interior Style Hunter was really set up to educate designers about brands that were out there, what they did, what they do, how you can work with them, give designers a platform to showcase their work to the design sector, etc.
Yeah.
This is really more about looking at my first love in design,
Perspectives.
which is like collectible design. I
Okay.
love collectible
Yeah.
design. Why is it important? Why do these makers matter? Why do these pieces matter? And that's really started getting me thinking about, how do you define what interior design is now?
Good question. How do you define interior design now?
Well, quite controversial perhaps, but I want to offer up a definition that I'm formulating. And there's 3 elements to it. Firstly, I've been thinking about this for years, and I've seen this happen for years. Projects have to have a narrative.
Yeah.
Whatever that narrative is, whether it's tied to the location, whether it's tied to the architecture, whether it's tied to a feeling, whether it's tied to the client, whatever it is, there needs to be a clear narrative in the space or the actual project itself, both. Then I want to see evidence of craftsmanship. I'm really passionate about craftsmen. I'm really passionate about heritage skills. I'm really passionate about the mark of the maker, as I like to say. Like, I love to see, the imperfections of a potter, or, the table where you can see that the hand has worked on it. We know scientifically that actually affects the human body in a good way when you can see handmade objects around you. So I want to see evidence of craft, because I believe that's giving back to the community. I believe that's supporting heritage skills.
Yeah.
And, it steps us slightly away from consumerism in a way, which is a whole nother story. Then I also want to see evidence of a curation in the space that ties back to the narrative and the space itself. So whether that's sourcing a particular vintage pair of chairs that touch on the client's heritage, or the space that it's in, or color, whatever those narratives are, I don't know what they are, they could be anything. That's for the designer to choose. But I want to see evidence of those 3 things. And when I'm saying curating, it's not necessarily just vintage or antique. It could be contemporary, it could be whatever those objects are in there. I want to see that there is a narrative that is being spoken visually from those items. And I think a lot of people say visually, but it could also be the skill of the maker that the level of the skill of the maker that brings those things together. So it could all be museum quality, it could all be emerging makers, it could all be whatever it is. It could be students, it could be whatever it is. But I want to see evidence of some intelligentsia around the design that's taken place in the building, and not just the color tones work.
Of course. I mean, I often speak with many clients that potentially do want to do what you said. They want to inject some collectible design into the space. They want to work with artisans. They want to basically choose also expensive pieces that make the space more original and unique. But then you have the client, and then the client, as you know, sometimes they have budget issues, and all of a sudden, I think the first things that goes is basically the pieces.
But I disagree. I completely disagree. I completely disagree with that statement, because, and it annoys me when designers fall back on that, because I think that's actually just not doing your job. Sorry for everyone who heard that, but that's how I feel. Because actually, if you go to the Crafts Council, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of makers around this country, if not thousands of makers. You go to the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust, you go to Homo Faber, you go to Cockpit Arts. There are so many. You go to West Dean College, work with a student, build a chair, get a vase made, do something that is of the project, that is unique. And that's, as a designer, I know that is the only way you're going to elevate your work above others, is creating something truly unique. Because if another designer goes on your page and is like, oh, that's from this place, that they're like, oh, they're just assembling bits and pieces. But when you actually look deep into this and you think, where's that? Who's that? What is this? How is this narrative coming together?
I mean, your portfolio is your brand, right?
Correct.
It should be your brand.
Yes.
And talking about brand, because I really want to focus on how to build a brand nowadays. What do you think are the key elements to do that today?
It's competitive. It's such a competitive market.
Yeah.
You need to really understand your skills. What are your skills? What can you deliver and deliver really well, you know? Forget about everyone else out there at the moment. Just what can you deliver really? What are you really good at?
Right.
What's your favorite part of the design process? Focus in on that first. Then, how does that relate to your clients? Do your clients value that? Do they find that interesting? Do they find that, you know, unique about you? If you've answered yes, 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 then let's go out and look in the market. Who else is similar? Who else is doing that? You know, can you claim that part of the market? That's your vibe. That's your look. That's your approach. That's your, you know, type of property. That's whatever those narratives are.
Yeah.
And then start to build your brand around those things. In a very simplistic way, that's how I would look at building a brand in 2024. You've got to own your message. If you're not owning your own message that's aligned with your strengths, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's such a valuable advice.
Back to basics, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got to have integrity now.
Yeah.
If you don't have integrity, you don't have an element of vulnerability about you, and sharing your, you know, not oversharing, but sharing actually that you are human, you know, it's very difficult to build a brand in 2024 without those elements.
Storytelling, I think is also going to be a massive part.
Huge. And designers are storytellers.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what you do. I mean, you know, Cinzia, this is what you do for your clients. You're visually telling their story.
And how they want to see themselves in few years' time.
Yeah,
exactly. Great point. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, finding your niche as well is also very good to attract, obviously, your ideal client. What else can interior designers do to differentiate themselves in the market?
I mean, it's quite interesting because there's many ways that you can do that. By project type, by, you know, turning yourself into a celebrity designer, by having product ranges, by, you know, working only on specific type of look or feel or not at all. You know, there's so many different ways out there. And, you know, I wouldn't just go and pick one. Again, I would think about what flows from you, what flows naturally from you. And I would always say to designers that are sort of starting up, you know, go out and experiment. Don't build your brand in year one. You know, go out and experiment. Go and just get a name, get going, you know, start sharing things you love. Go and find your projects. Go and try different types of things. 5 years in, go and look at your portfolio. Where are the red threads between your projects? What do you love about this and that you've done? Who do you like working with? Who don't you like working with? Then really invest in your brand. You know, take that time to go and experiment and play as a creative, because I think the danger is if you set up a brand when you're starting out, you're almost putting a noose around your neck as that's what you've got to be, and there's no flexibility or creativity that can happen beyond that brand, because a brand can be restricting if it's too rigid. You know, we have that with a few clients. Their brands are, you know, so restrictive that it hinders some of the things that we're actually able to do with them. You know,
because as soon as you have the brand is out there, people start to perceive in a certain way, and you're kind of pigeonholed yourself in one spot, basically.
Exactly, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To brand yourself, you know, to build all of those assets, to get photo shoots done, you know, all of that sort of thing. And I would just, you know, year one, go out and play. Go out and play. When I started Interior Style Hunter, my goal for year one was just, you know, build a profile in the sector. That was it. That was just go everywhere. What's happening? Try lots of different things.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what I say to young designers: don't get wrapped up in brand. Go and experiment, go and play, go get some projects under your belt, you know, go build a business before you build a brand, basically. I know that's contrary to what a lot of people will say, but I think in the design sector, you know, you're going to define yourself by your brand, and that definition will come out of the work that you do.
Absolutely. And building a brand is also about building trust. I mean, how can interior designers, let's say, can build authority at the early stages? You know, they might not have a big portfolio, and they're probably 1 or 2 years in or 3 years in. Maybe they have one project they're proud of. And how can they build that authority at that time?
I think it depends where you want authority. Do you want it in a market that your clients are in, or do you want authority within the design sector?
Mm-hmm.
Two very different things,
Right.
you know? So I think you need to really, if you want to build authority, you know, with your potential client base, you've got to know who those people are,
Mm-hmm.
where they're hanging out, what magazines are they reading, what podcasts are they listening to, how do you start to show up on those things, what blogs are they reading, whose social media are they interacting with,
Mm-hmm.
you know? That's what you need to figure out. And that's when they start to see you active in their market, they start to pay attention. And then you've got to get your messaging right. What is your message? What message are you taking to market? And is that message going to be respected by the people who are reading it that you want to read?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And how can they craft these messages? Is there a formula that you use for your clients?
So when I do a brand strategy with somebody, okay, I basically lock them in a room for an afternoon, lots of food in a luxury hotel somewhere.
That's all right then.
And food and drinks all afternoon long. And I do it in the afternoon because they're not as sharp in the afternoon as the mornings, and I want that. Okay.
More relaxed.
Exactly. And I have a set of about 250 questions that I fire at them all afternoon. And I record the whole thing. And basically what I do is I've taken, you know, like traditional marketing models. I use 3 or 4 of them, and I sort of have developed a set of questions around each element of all of those marketing models.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all coded and linked back to different elements of a marketing model. So I'm asking the same question maybe 10 times over in different ways, which gives me different nuances to their answers.
Yep.
And from that, I then land up with an enormous document that gets typed up for me, you know, to then work through and pull out bits and pieces of messaging. And I sort of craft messaging based on that enormous document. And I think that's key. You've got to get all your thoughts out about something. To really understand your own messaging, you've got to get your thoughts out onto paper, you know, or visually. I understand, you know, of course, design is a visual. This could be a visual exercise for you, creating mood boards around your messaging.
Yeah.
Your messaging doesn't have to be words. It can be visual. You don't have to write a caption on social media if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, you can just have amazing visuals. And I think designers often try and fit themselves into, you know, having to write about things or having to sort of, you know, stand up and talk about it. But actually they design, that's their language. And I remember a really good friend of mine who's an artist, he said to me once, he said, you know, if you ask me to describe my work, that's like me asking you to paint a picture instead of writing an article.
Right.
It's really nice.
And I thought, get it. I get that. And it's the same with designers. They express through creating space. And, you know, that's what they need to be doing. So do it. And don't only wait for a client. When you're not, you know, I write all the time, whether I'm publishing it or not. You know, you could be designing all the time, feeding your socials with it. And that's building your message, building your narrative.
Yeah. I find it interesting because sometimes people understand more about who they are once they get asked the right questions, and they get surprised about themselves because no one really asks them the right question.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, having those questions and actually phrase them in different ways, you can really go deeper and really uncover what they are, and like you said, those brand messages behind it as well.
And you need time. You can't do it while being distracted.
Mm-hmm.
It's deep work. I love deep work. I don't know if you guys know the concept about deep work, where, basically you turn off everything, and you focus on a task and you just, hit it. And I mean, it's like, I do it in the mornings at least 3 times a week, between like 8 and 10 a.m. No one can get hold of me. And that is when I do my best work, just completely no distractions, no emails, no phones, no calls, no notifications, absolutely nothing,
I start doing that as well.
And
Twice a
how have
week.
you found it?
I get so much done rather than doing something, then get distracted by someone that talks to you or a text or something, and you actually lose. I read some few articles. You lose so much time in your brain to get into the action you were doing before or the task you were doing before. You actually lose so much time every time you stop.
Yeah.
And because I think your brain takes about 30 seconds to think what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that's a great tip.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite mornings are most productive mornings. I know when I've got a big piece of work that I need to do, where I really need to engage every brain cell, I will go for my walk early in the morning, which is about 40 minutes, 50 minutes around the river here in Barnes, and get back to my desk for 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, I'm out. No one can get hold of me. Like, it's just, I'm out. And I'm so absorbed in work. And I feel like, when I get to 10 a.m., still early.
Yeah.
But I've done a huge investment in myself, in my business.
Yeah.
And the rest of the day can be everybody else's. I can be everybody else's. I can be there for my clients. I can be there for my team. I can be there for everybody who needs me during the day. But I know that I've invested that time in myself and the work that I need to get out at the level that I need to get it out. And I just find that it's revolutionized the quality of my work.
I mean, I get so many ideas when I go for a walk, for example, and because your brain, it starts to kind of
Get
switch
oxygen
on
as well.
Yeah. So
Do you take notes of your ideas when you're out walking?
sometimes,
Do you?
because sometimes I don't want to touch my phone, and I really want to focus on the walk itself. But sometimes, there are times that, maybe I should write it down.
You should.
Yeah.
I know, that's the thing. I have this internal dialogue in my brain when I'm walking, and I'm thinking, desperate to write that down. Like, do I take a voice note on my watch or this or that or
Right.
something? And I'm like, no, you're here to walk. Let the thought come and let it go. Like, if it's that good, it's going to come back.
I'm so
when
bad.
you
I
need
always
it.
put a
Do
note on
you?
it. I
Do you? Oh my gosh.
I
I want to do that, because I also love to see words. So, I don't know. It's a difficult thing, but I've tried not to do that and actually quite enjoyed letting the thoughts just come and thinking that's a really good idea. And, some days I'm walking super fast to get back home. I mean, I'm not a runner, but, so I won't run. But I'm walking super fast to get back home just to get the idea down, So it's like, quick, go.
But, going back how you start with your clients, keep it in the room, things like that. In a way, it's like you advise for what interior design to be a narrative, to tell a story. You actually ask your clients to tell their story. You want to become an interior design? Why? Do you want to create a brand? Why? You're actually doing the same thing.
Exactly.
You ask them to tell the story, the narrative of the brand. So that's really interesting.
And a lot of those questions are actually around motivation. Why are you motivated to do this?
Yeah.
Why are you motivated to build a brand? Why are you motivated to build a business? Because I want to understand the motivations behind it. And I'm not asking direct questions as, why are you motivated to do that? It's other questions that lead into that.
Did you ask them to do like a vision board? How do
I
you see
haven't
yourself?
actually. I haven't yet, but that's maybe a really good idea to add to it.
Because I do every year. This is
Yeah.
my year resolution. Every January, I
Nice.
do a new vision board, what I achieved and what I want to achieve. So that's what I do.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting about what you said about motivation, because there is this force, push and pull. So at the beginning, you have that willpower that makes you start a business, and you are potentially really excited about the idea of running your own business. But then if you're not passionate about it, then that willpower would diminish. And if you don't have a purpose, that motivation that really pulls you, then you can give up quite easily.
Absolutely. I mean, even with me, I'm obsessed with interior design. I love it. Absolutely love it. People have asked me over the years, why don't you start an interior design business? I don't want to. I'm not interested in having to deal with clients and in that way, the long projects. That's just not my bag. But I can still appreciate and love design and still work and participate in the sector. And I love design so much that I can't help myself but get involved in the sector. Like I just can't. I have to get involved because I'm so passionate about the sector, about making sure that, we have professionals, there's room for people to grow in the sector. Like I'm just, that fuels me almost. That fuels me. It's not the business or making money. If I wanted to make money, I would have stayed in the city. It's not that, but it's that passion for design that I go to trade shows. Why do I need to be going to trade shows? I don't need to be going to trade shows. I go to all of them. I love them.
I find it really interesting because some people, because I go to trade shows too, and they're saying, oh, why are you going there? Is that for work? And I'm thinking, well, it's kind of work, but it's really, what I love doing, and so that work and passion, it's kind of, that line is quite blurry sometimes.
Exactly.
But to be fair, you actually help your clients more if you are involved in their business. You can give more advice. You know what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right. So rather than a marketing agency, for instance, that takes a lot of people from different fields and they are not experts in that. So that is actually USP for both of you, because you are in so much into the design that is the way to help people in that way. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Exactly. And I think there's so much value from that because you can, the experience over the years with, hiring photographers, looking at license agreements. I mean, fraught with issues at the moment. And designers are signing agreements and they don't understand what copyright means and what license agreements mean. And you're just like, we've done this so many times. Speak to us. We can help you, it's that industry knowledge that we can help. We can shortcut for a lot of people, which is so useful. And there's so much value behind that.
Good. I want to discuss about the social media landscape now. It has changed so much, and especially since you started obviously promoting your blog, the algorithm, also the consumer behavior, different platforms. What do you see people are still doing wrong on social media, and what they should be doing instead?
Well, that's a big question.
I like this question.
What are they doing wrong and what should they be doing instead? Wow. I think people need to readjust their expectations of what they're expecting from social media, firstly. I think social media is brilliant for visibility and for, brand positioning. So people can really very quickly, without having to digest a website, understand who you are, what you do, and who you do that for. I think, Instagram's pretty good for that sort of thing. I also think understanding the different social media platforms and how they're able to help you is also crucial. So if you're, working with developers, for example, and spending all your time on Instagram, well, you're missing a trick because actually you need to be on LinkedIn. And if you're, private client and all you do all day long is talk to other people in the design sector, well, also that's not going to work. You need to be speaking to referrers. Who's going to refer you business, whether that's concierge services, family offices, estate agents, architects, etc., etc. I think a lot of people have also forgotten that social media is supposed to be social.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying all the time.
Yes. So where are the conversations?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time it's just push. We did this. We saw this.
Post and ghost.
Yeah, exactly. But who's having a conversation? Who's starting the conversations?
Yeah.
Are you starting a conversation? Are you getting involved in other conversations?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget that about social media.
Absolutely.
I also think there's a huge misunderstanding between being on social media as a business or a creative or an artist or whatever, and being an influencer. Why does the influencer have 150,000 followers, 200,000 followers? Well, there's a formula they're following. They're showing up on Instagram, they're producing content every single day, they're publishing it, they're tagging everybody, they're building this audience, they're showing up all the time. You cannot just be posting a few mood boards and thinking, what's happening?
Yep.
You've got to find your way of communicating on social and understand where that limit is as to who's going to follow you, who's not going to follow you.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to become an influencer, great, become an influencer, but there's a path to that. You've got to invest in creating that content, and that investment is enormous now, as we know. You've got to have professional video, you've got to be set up, you've got to be storyboarding out your reels. I mean, it's a big job. It's a big job. It's
and you
not
need to
just
invest time as well.
Absolutely.
And I
that's
think a
your
lot
job.
of, yeah.
But that's the thing, is that's your job. I mean, I look at, some of the big American like fabric brands, they're starting to hire editorial directors because they understand that narrative is so important. How they tell their story to their market is going to generate sales or not. And so, this is what we're seeing. Design firms, I often say to people, how much money are you spending on a photographer every year? Oh, £100,000. Why aren't you hiring someone full time? Who's documenting your year and using that and creating your own editorial stuff, as you're going along. Like, just think about this, because particularly the larger firms, you almost need to have an in-house publishing department, to be honest.
Yeah, because obviously these channels give you the chance to tell your story, like you said. It's free, and I think a lot of people take that for granted.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says, oh, social media is free, but actually the amount of time
you
have to put into it.
Of course, yeah.
And if you're a business, I would always say you need to be spending as well, to get visibility on your content. If you're going to use it for brand visibility. Yeah, I mean, social media is sort of fraught with issues because you can talk about it from so many perspectives, just so many perspectives. I think people need to remember that, I'm a professional marketer. There's many tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Social media is one tool. That's it. One tool. PR is one tool. Events are another tool. SEO is another tool. Like, there's a lot of tools. There's advertising. There's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
What is the balance of the tools that you're working? Which tool works for you?
Yeah. But sometimes a combination.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
you cannot rely only on one channel.
Correct.
You need to really spread your message across different channels, because each channel has its purpose, right? And Instagram and social media could be really good for brand awareness and brand visibility. Then SEO can really help you to convert people, drive website traffic and convert people into potential customers. I
mean, at the end of the day, we all know that the majority of interior designers are getting their business via referrals.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Mm-hmm. So that means you need to be going out there networking to get new clients, get referrals from agents, from developers, from architects, from all sorts of people. When I speak to small businesses, small design firms, I'm like, who's your 10 closest architects to your office?
Mm-hmm.
No idea. I'm like, well, that's where you start. Go knock on doors.
Yeah.
Build relationships with people.
So architects will be one of them. Estate agents.
Potentially. Potentially estate agents. Buying agents are better. Potentially estate agents. I think you've got to understand with estate agents, what I think is once they've signed that deal, you know, they're working for the seller. Like, are they interested in pushing a designer to someone who's bought to potentially mess up their deal? Maybe not so much.
Right.
You know, so not when the house is selling, but they might say to someone who pops in, do you know an interior designer, la, la, la. So that might be a good referral.
Okay.
But I wouldn't rely on that. Architects, I think, are great to refer. Family offices for, you know, bigger projects. Concierge services.
You mentioned builders as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great one.
I get a lot of referrals for our builders.
But again, it's about building relationships with these people. If they don't know who you are, they're not going to refer work to you, you know? So you've got to go and find these people. And I would almost be like, go and find them and then use social media to build a relationship with them. So introduce yourself to them, follow them, connect with them.
And stay connected.
And stay connected. Keep connected with them. Keep going. Keep building that conversation with them.
But that's really good advice, because a lot of people think I just post a picture on Instagram and just wait for the phone to ring.
No.
That doesn't work like this.
No.
It happens sometimes, but not all the time. So,
Yeah, exactly.
But what advice would you give, for instance, someone that's starting their own business now? Because SEO, Instagram, all these things do cost money. And if you're starting from scratch, to build all of that can be quite expensive. So what would be the first tool, among all the tools you picked, what would be the first tool that someone should, you know, focus on?
Yeah.
So brand new business. No projects yet.
Yeah.
I would say pick up the phone and call your local estate agents, call your local architects, book a coffee, go and chat to them. Who do you connect with? Who's going to introduce you? Who's going to help you tell you who's around? I mean, I've, you know, always taking photographs of hoarding everywhere, because I'm like, they're working, the architect's working, the construction firm's working. There must be something interesting going on there. And I connect with those people, you know. Yeah. So it's about get out there and go and network.
So get the proper personal connection rather than focus on Instagram and social. Not
that's
for
secondary.
now. Yeah.
No, that's secondary. Make sure you've got a good looking Instagram grid, you know, and that could just be ideas, could be concepts, could be travel, could be drawings, it could be, you know, some of your coursework, whatever that is. Get that on your Instagram, because that's your sales page almost. You know, put a video of you on there so people can see your personality, they can connect with you in that way, you know, so that's almost like a sales page that you're building. So when you go and speak to these people and they look you up, they see a little bit more about you.
So designers, if you're starting now, get out there.
Yeah.
But I guess I think it's a good advice to also for people that are a little bit further along that journey, because it's something that people don't do. And it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, sometimes they hope that people go to them, but they don't want to make that kind of first step and being more proactive. You know,
I think there's such a huge issue, and I've seen it with designers that I started working with, and then you see their business grow and they have this crisis where they realize that they now have to become a business person.
Yep.
And not only a designer anymore. And they go through it's traumatic for some people, where they think, if I don't get out there and get new business, who's paying my team?
Yep.
How am I keeping this thing rolling? And I've got projects to deliver, you know, the rest of the project to deliver next year, for example. I need the team for that, but I don't have the cash flow. What am I going to do? And it's, you've got to, I think if you want to be a designer and only a designer, go work for an amazing firm.
Yeah.
If you want to be a designer and a businessman, then start your own business person.
What other marketing trends do you see dominating the space in the future? Are podcasts that thing? Channels like TikTok becoming more popular, or even AI? Are people going to use AI to streamline their marketing as well?
So I love AI because
You
I
do
think,
as well.
I'm obsessed. I'm
He's
obsessed.
obsessed with that.
Do you know why? Because I think it gives, and I'm particularly thinking about designers here, it gives designers a way to express what's actually happening in their minds without committing to, doing a big drawing, or it's almost like doing a little doodle in a way that they can sort of really play with it and explore crazy concepts and ideas and push the boundaries of what they're thinking about, not really using it for work yet. I don't think it's quite there, but I do think it's a great way to sort of express creativity and just play with that, play with those ideas and see it happening visually in front of you. I think that's very interesting. But what I do see, really big growth is YouTube. Enormous growth happening on that. I mean, we've seen some phenomenal things happening with some of our clients working on YouTube. Yeah.
Interesting, because it's so untapped. People are not considering YouTube for a channel because, again, it requires investment to do the videos. Requires time, requires someone that can really guide them into creating something different, unique, good.
I mean, there's so many issues around it. And, I heard a theory the other day that YouTube is really gaining a lot of traction at the moment because, on Google, people were going to Google search, but actually now they're going to ChatGPT to ask questions instead of going to Google search.
Yeah.
And actually, YouTube is now becoming one of the biggest, if not, it hasn't usurped Google yet, but it's the second largest search engine out there.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have content on YouTube, you are actually missing out on sort of old-fashioned searches in a way. So it's quite powerful like that. But the investment in video is very expensive.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, and it's a barrier to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that it's actually got to become part of your business strategy that we need to communicate in this way and able to allocate funds to that, to really showcase that what you're doing and have it edited on video, have it put into a YouTube video and published correctly. Because I think you can just put anything onto YouTube, but you've got to be looking at keywords, you've got to be looking at search trends, you've got to be looking at all of that. It's quite technical, actually.
Do you think that people are actually crave something that it's less edited nowadays? Because sometimes I see videos and content that's too polished.
So you mean more real?
Yeah, people are craving the authenticity, and that's why people are spending more time on stories than on actually Instagram feed.
I mean, it's difficult because, if you've now spent all this money on your brand and you've, taken so long to build where you are in the sector, and then you're going to, drop in a video of your project that's not professionally filmed, does that degrade the value of your project? Does the client look at it and think, what the hell are you doing?
Okay.
Is your brand devalued by that? There's questions around that to ask. I think there's a mix. So when you're showcasing work, that really needs to be polished
100%,
and beautifully edited and really thought about. But I do agree that human element needs to be there. So places like stories are great to be able to share that human element because it disappears over time, So I think you've got to understand the social media landscape and what each sort of element of social offers and tailor your message for that.
Amazing. I think I have one last question for you, and actually, revolves around your hobbies and interests. So apart from your morning walks, what else do you do for fun?
Shop.
Okay.
Shoes. Travel. I love shopping. I love shopping for bags and shoes. It's ridiculous. It's a bit of a problem, but
favorite brand?
Favorite brand? Oh, Jacques Sollivier at the moment, too. I'm wearing here, which I sort of love them. I love them, but a small little place in the south of Paris, actually.
Okay.
And Yeah, just obsessed with their shoes at the moment. So, yeah, I think, you know, I'm so interested in design. You know, I'm like doing courses with Christie's on things. I'm doing, my house is full of books about design. Like, I'm obsessed with design. It's really, it is my passion. Like for me, when I go traveling, I'm looking for where's the vintage market and where's the museum. Like that's what I'm looking for, you know. I love to travel, absolutely love to travel all over. So,
will we see a book in the future? I think you should write a book about all these tips you gave us.
You know, it's an interesting one because I have been approached a couple of times to do a book, but I don't want to do a book championing designers. I want to write about my own philosophy of design, but that's quite challenging to do when you working with designers and you don't have the imagery to support that. You know, it's quite a challenging place to be. No one's going to read a novel about design. You know, you want to see. So I haven't quite answered that question yet. There's a book in me, a few, I'm sure.
Do you have a provisional title for that?
Sorry?
Do you have a provisional title for that?
No. Probably my own name, which is even more ridiculous. But, you know, but I mean, I don't want to write a business book. Yeah, I've been offered. You know, a couple of times people have said, like, can you? I don't want to write. I don't want my legacy to be that.
I think what I would like to read is more about sharing your stories. You just said, look, that happened and didn't work out. I did that. I advised that to one of my clients.
I was locked in a palace in the Middle East for 4 days.
I know. But yeah, it's something that it's not about, you know, marketing or whatever strategy, because that's quite a lot. But something you say, something about you and your passion, because it comes across so nicely, this love for interior, that I would love to read something about that.
Building Grant Pierrus. That's it. That's the title.
we made that the title. Here we go.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I love design, and I love nothing more than being in my client studios and seeing what they're working on, and you know, just going through it with them and just sort of talking about design and seeing design, and then you get the opportunity to take that to market. I mean, it's amazing. You see everyone's reactions to these projects and things. It's or winning awards, or it's I love that. I really love the sort of the narrative or the narration of these different projects.
What's the next exhibition on your calendar?
Good question. Actually, we've just gone through a whole spate of exhibitions. I was in Brussels last week at
Collectible.
Yes, at Collectible and TEFAF in Maastricht. And then 2 weeks before that, I was at Brafa in Brussels. And then this week's been London Design Week and Collect 2 weeks ago. So I'm kind of showed out at the moment. I think the next tranche of shows is in New York, I think, in early May, which I'm probably going to. We're doing a photo. Is
it ICFF or?
Yes.
Okay.
No, TEFAF.
Okay.
And a few others. I need to look at my diary. You know, there's sort of show season's kind of over, which is quite nice. I love being out and about, but I also quite like being back at my desk and writing. So New York, watch out. Grant Pierrus is coming. Grant, thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been so great. I've just loved chatting with you. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed our conversation, feel free to share it with your friends. And if you wish to dive deeper into the business of interior design, we invite you to join our membership community at business@interiors.com.